And I can't get February out of my head.
Yeah.
I cry always. Because I remember what happened. I seen what happened.
And a huge shell came in, and I had 9 men in my squad. I lost 5 of them. Well, I've lost 7 of them, blown to bits, just arms and legs. I was lying in that stuff on my left side, and practically my whole left side leg was covered in that stuff. You put your elbow in, it'd sink way down. And my right side was exposed. So I caught the shrapnel all up my whole right side.
From that shell that hit.
Yeah, one shell hit us. And then Bowers, my first gunner, he was on his right side in this hole. And naturally, he got hit on the left side. All the rest of them were just, like I said, the other 7 were just, you couldn't recognize them. They took the blunt of it. We just sat there and we couldn't move. We were both incapacitated and just talked.
In a lot of pain?
Yeah, but that's the least of your worries. Yeah. Pain, you can dismiss the pain, and you just wonder when the next one's coming and you're going to be gone. So about 5 hours later, a corpsman came in, and he worked on both of us. Did a better job than we did, naturally. Then he gave us a shot of morphine and a bottle of brandy, and he said, I'll notify the litter bearers. Now, so Ted Ketchum, my sergeant, we were ready to move up again. And he said, okay, Killilea, let's go. He said, we're moving up. And I can't tell you what I told him. But I said, no way, I'm not moving an inch. So he got a little closer over the hole, and he said, you either move or I'll shoot you right there. And I said, you crazy bastard, kid, take a better look. And he got over the shell hole better, and he could see what was going on. And he said, oh, okay, see you later. And off he went. And then the litter bearers came, I don't know what time, but they came and they got Bowers. And I was senior man, so I told them to take him first. I never saw him again. I understand he died of fright, probably because of what happened on the way to the beach. When they laid down a barrage, the litter bearers, they had to save their own lives. You were already half shot, so they all, 4 of them, they would dive for cover when the barrages started in. And they would dive for cover to save their lives, which is normal. And you're laying up there, hey, pretty good fortune line going on, you know. And then they'd pick you up again and they'd get you down to the shore. And
then we sailed to battle. Again, we didn't know where we were going, but about 2 days out, he announced it was Iwo Jima, a place that none of us had ever heard of, and we were assured that it would be a simple operation because they had shelled the island for about 60 days and thought certainly there wouldn't be anybody or anything left on the island. We got to Iwo, and as the 3rd Division, we were not assigned the duty to go in first. We were more of a reserve force. And so we stayed out in anchor, and you could hear the 16-inch shells go over our head and
Wow.
see them hit the island, and as well as the airplanes that were busy flying in and machine gunning. And so we got to watch the battle as it ensued.
Now, were they giving you reports on how things were going on the island? Did you have any idea, just how rough of a battle it was up to this point?
No, we really didn't have any idea, but other than the fact that they were bringing casualties out to our ship.
Ooh.
We weren't a hospital ship, but they needed so much help that they brought them out. And so finally we went in, and it was a little tough even to get in because we had to transfer to an LST and had to crawl across from our ship to the other ship on a 12-inch board. Pretty hard to do with a 50-pound pack on your back.
And two ships going in
Yeah, and all the ship motion.
motion, yeah.
I knew if I fell, that'd be the end of me.
Wow.
And then we were in the LSTs and went ashore, and then we got into the real thick of the battle. And the shore consisted of volcanic ash and had no substance to it at all, and you couldn't dig a foxhole because it would fill itself back in again. So there was no place to run and hide. I didn't know what was there, but I dug up a hand. I didn't know whether it was Japanese or American, but I didn't spend much time in that area. So it was just practically hopeless to try to dig.
What was it like, when the doors opened and you got on the beach and there's chaos and you've dug up this hand? I mean, you were literally thrown into sheer hell. I mean, what's going through a person's mind then? I mean, do you remember what you were thinking, or what thoughts you had as you were thrown into this situation?
I guess I would liken it to living in a dream, more of a nightmare. And it was so surreal, and there was no night. They kept flares bursting in the air continuously. Not the best light, but it was almost like daylight. And it was difficult to distinguish between the Japanese and the Marines. Their uniforms were kind of like the same color, and I recall seeing who I thought was a Japanese pinned in the barbed wire fence. I passed it several times, and finally I stopped to investigate and discovered it was a Marine, which I reported to our company commander.
How do you think you functioned? How did you manage to just physically and emotionally or mentally function during this time period? What kept you going, do you think?
I'd like to have the answer to that one. As I said, it was just so surreal. The casualties, seeing all the fatalities, and they were loading them on a pickup or a dump truck to haul them for burial. And they stacked like cordwood. And so after a while, there were so many casualties, they needed stretcher bearers. And so I was assigned to be a stretcher bearer. And some of the guys were so sad that maybe they had their heads half blown off, but yet they were still alive and still, and they clamored to have somebody to comfort them, to touch them, and it was really tough on us to take guys out like that,
Oh, sure.
realizing it could be us that.
Night, and I got the 12 to 1 watch, and we shoot these flares up. And I was up about 15 minutes, and I heard a noise, and the flare went out because it hit the ground. Now it was pitch black, and they told us, don't leave your foxhole, shoot at anything that moves. So I yelled, give the password. I no sooner said that, the flare lit up, and I saw 2 Japs in front of me, and a hand grenade hit me right square in the head and landed 3 feet from my head. I ducked down, and I didn't get a scratch. All I got some dirt thrown on me.
Yeah.
All of a sudden they shot these knee mortars at us. The knee mortars came down, I dove for the ground. I hit the ground, and as I'm hitting the ground, there comes a mortar and lands right at my feet. It didn't go off, it was a dud. Now, I never had a cramp. As I'm looking at that shell, I'm thinking I should get up and move. And I get a cramp, I lift up my left leg, and I know soon I got it 8 inches off the ground, and bam! Piece of shrapnel right through the sole of my shoe, right into my foot.
Oh.
And all of my men came up to me and said, you got the $1 million wound. You get off the island. And that's what I did. They flew me to Guam, operated.
Iwo Jima.
Iwo Jima.
Yeah. And we were there when we seen the boats going in. And there was a lot of men on the island already. We were stationed, we're not too far from the island. We could see everything. We seen Suribachi and what they were doing. Didn't see too many airplanes flying over. We seen spotter planes get knocked out of the sky, little Pipers or whatever, little airplanes, and the Japs were knocking them down. And Air Force, you'd think there would have been a lot more bombing in that, but they were doing more firing from the battleship Missouri was behind us, quite a ways behind us, shooting at the island. And we could see the shells, the 16-inch shells going to the island.
Wow.
We could see them coming over us.
Wow.
I mean, that's a big shell.
Yeah.
They had so many men on the beaches already. And there was just hundreds of boats still going toward the beaches. There was no place for the men to go. We couldn't understand that. I couldn't. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe that's the way you fight a war, but that ain't the way I'd think a war should be fought. And I've seen these boats getting blown out of the water, the LCMs, loaded with men, getting hit with mortars and knocked right out of the water, sunk right out there. And all these bodies laying, you could see the bodies laying in the water. Nobody's picking them up. I mean, there's no place for them to go. Then when we seen on the third day, I think it was the flag went up on Suribachi. That opened everything up. That's when the Marines started moving, and they could get on the island and start heading up. And we went by, they were digging a graveyard for Marines and burying them. They had a bulldozer that was digging the trenches. And we seen them putting the bodies in there side by side, and they marked everything off. Marked the graves off, I guess, and everything else, and then they bulldozer over them. But
What's going through a 19-year-old Chicago boy seeing all this? What are you thinking? I mean, I can't imagine what.
cry.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of them boys, 15 and 16-year-olds, were in them boats getting killed for nothing. My birthday was February 13th. And my birthday was 6 days before the invasion of Iwo Jima.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't get February out of my head.
Yeah.
I cry always. Because I remember what happened. I seen what happened.
There was an officer, a first lieutenant, I believe he was, first or second, I think he's first. He and I would sit out on the deck in the evenings a lot of times and visit about some things. He was from Chicago. His name was Elrod. Bless his heart. Now his story was this. We were at Iwo Jima and unloading a little ways off the beach, letting the ducks go on and the sea. And that's where that was a catastrophe for a lot of them. They didn't make it in. The motors were drowned out. Well, anyway, this lieutenant with his 105 howitzer aboard his duck had drowned it out, and so we was trying to get him back aboard. And so we had our cable came all the way through the tank deck down by that ramp, and a winch in the back. We thought we could pull him aboard. We had him on the ramp, teeter-tottering, honestly, just teeter-tottering. We thought we could pull him and get him over. Well, the cable broke. Down he went. We threw over we called it above the top deck and asked him to throw a ring, life ring to him, but he had his driver, and his driver, it landed right by the driver, and he took it. The last we saw him, he was trying to swim toward the ship, and we called up above and to the skipper, and he reversed the screws thinking he'd throw him back out from under the ship. He went under the ship. Oh. Yeah. This is hard for me to tell, quite frankly. Anyway, he went under the ship. That's the last we saw of the skipper. Try to reverse the screws and throw him back out so we could help him out. Never see him anymore.
I'll be done.
See, from Hawaii, why we picked up the 5th Marines, and of course we had never heard of Iwo Jima, but got up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and the breakfast was at 2:30, and then from there on it goes such and such, you know, right down to the deembarkation, the troops, and what's going on, and then of course it was still dark when we got off of Iwo Jima, and then when we began to get light over there, you could see old Suribachi off there in the distance. And dark gray morning, you know, kind of, well, it didn't look very hospitable looking.
What goes through really a kid's mind as you're driving this boat really into harm's way? What are you thinking as you're?
Well, you know, I guess I'm never really scared.
Really? Yeah.
You're apprehensive, and really, you always think that it's going to be the guy beside you that's going to get it rather than you. But still, you're pretty apprehensive, and understand. I feel like compared to what the Marines went through there, I had a piece of cake, because as far as that particular day and our particular time that we went into the beach, everything went just as it should have, as we've been trained to do and practice and everything. We went in a little after 9, maybe 9:15, somewhere in there, and if you read anything about the landing on Iwo Jima, why, you know that the Japanese commander had ordered his troops to let the Marines load the beach, and that didn't, so they went ashore, loaded the beach, so probably for an hour after it started. And the first waves in there were the Amtraks, you know, the tractors with the Marines in, and then we came in behind that with the boats. And at the time we actually touched the beach, while the wave action was moderate and fairly calm, we slid up there and slid on the beach and dropped the ramp, and no resistance, just deathly quiet. The wind wasn't blowing, it wasn't raining or anything. Perfect landing, one of the best landings ever made on the beach. And one of the Marines said, "Oh, this is going to be a piece of cake." So we backed off, and left our Marines there, and they advanced on up it's kind of, the beach rose up in kind of stair steps and had this volcanic ash. There's just, as I remember, I don't remember seeing a green piece of grass or anything on it. It's mostly just black old ash. In fact, I got some in the boat that I still got a bottle of it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so then we went back to ship, and wasn't scheduled to come back until after 10 o'clock. About an hour later, well, we got back, and all hell had broke loose. They had started firing intensively at about 10 o'clock. See, after the beach was loaded, and they were just picking them off like a shooting gallery. You could just see Marines dropping everywhere, and they'd thrown mortars and other shell fire out there, and they'd hit the group of Marines. You'd see bodies flying in all directions. This is all about probably a good block away. And we're sitting out on the beach watching all this scene.
Oh, boy.
Couldn't do a damn thing to help them. That's something I've always regretted. You know, I've always had kind of a survivor's guilt, I guess, because you just felt so damned helpless. You could not help those guys at all. Just had to watch them get butchered. And that's why I say I never felt like they ever was aiming at me like they were the Marines. I got a lot of respect for the Marines, I'll tell you. I'm glad they're on our side.
How far back offshore was the ship actually?
Well, it was probably, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 miles.
Okay.
They were quite a ways out, and I think they could have gotten closer than that. I don't know why they set up that far, but I know. And then we had to pick up Marines and take them back to the wounded Marines and take them back to the ships. They had they used the officer's wardrobe as their hospital rooms where they were working on the Marines, and we had to take them back, and then they'd pick them up off our boat and take them up there on the ship to treat them if they could. Well, no, that's another thing. When we got back there, why the wind and the wave action had come up, and I got pictures of the beach there, and I told you how the boats were broached. Well, so much of the wreckage on the beach were boats that had been broached, and once they're broached, well, then the sand begins to fill in the boats, and they're just kind of a hazard. you know, they're part of the beach. You can't land at that particular point because of the debris in the way. We couldn't land it from that point on because of the wave action and the debris on the beach, because our boats were more of a menace or a hazard than they were in fact, at one point there, it never happened to us, but the LCBPs would have to throw a line to a beach crew, and they would have to stabilize the boat while it was in the water. Well, they were getting picked off as snipers, see, the guys in the holding the lines, and they'd have to drop the lines, and the boats would get thrown up on the beach, and it put a lot of confusion there for a little bit.
Iwo Jima, and one time I was called in and sent out to pick up a down flyer of ours, you know, and so picked up an ensign, and we went out and spotted him and loaded him up. He was gone. And, but he was burned so bad. We got him on board, and then they set me out again with him in a body bag. So that kind of service for him on my boat. And but one thing that really disturbed me, one time I got up close to the beach and wasn't hardly any openings, only along the LST they had in there at the beach. So I thought, well, the only place to go was right in there. So I headed in there, and I didn't notice anything unusual. As they got in, I realized something was just a thrashing around there, and then I seen those sharks. They were just a thrashing around there right in there at the beach.
Oh.
And this is set up as a hospital ship. And they were bringing boys off the Iwo Jima there off the slopes, and suppose a lot of amputations, you know, and casting all that into the water. And these sharks were just thrashing around there, couldn't clear it out of the water at times almost. And they was right up there against my boat. And wow. And so they really shook me up real light, because the water was just blood red, you know, right there. They was just discharging things off the ship. So,
but this was the worst target in Japan. The most heavily defended too, because it was a big complex of factories producing half the heavy engines plus a lot of other things, Mushishino. And we got clobbered. And the all navigation instruments were shot out. They
Out of your plane?
yeah. The radar operator in the back of the plane took a hit in the leg.
Oh boy.
We got ventilated, but our navigation was shot out, and we found out we couldn't get back to Saipan. The engineer calculates all that. So I've radioed another airplane, 11,000 foot overcast. So he gave us a heading, speed, rate of letdown. When you break out, Iwo Jima should be. There was no Iwo Jima any place.
Fine.
But after, I'll say 45 minutes or an hour, and working that system with very primitive stuff, there was Iwo Jima, obviously. But it was just the Japs stripped as rough as a cob.
Wow. How much sooner, or when you landed, how soon before that had Iwo Jima been liberated or taken over by?
Well, it wasn't completely taken over yet.
It still hadn't been. Oh boy.
But the dirt strip was.
So you had to be probably one of the first planes to land in Iwo. Weren't
somebody else went there too.
Is that right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
It was rough. I really didn't think much about it. Of course, a dog tired by
Yeah,
that time.
right. And then
That's-
they patched you up, and then you continued on to Saipan then, or?
Yeah, the plane would work, and we could find Saipan all right.